Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is Tig's the cat. This is my TIG welder. One of them runs off pure argon, the other one runs off cat food and the occasional treats. Don't get those two mixed up. In this video today we're going to be building a TIG welding trolley for my Stel TIG welder. It's a DC TIG. It's the Stel 161. Going to be using some 20mm by 20mm steel box section. May have been 25, can't remember. And we're going to start by making the base. So as you can see here, I'm just marking out some 45-degree angles on the steel. This is where we're going to bend the steel without cutting all the way through the steel. Now, we've been through this whole process before when we made the folding workbench, and I'll put a link to that video below if you want to see the whole process to bending your steel in one hit without having to cut it. You do end up with some nicer corners by doing it that way. So there you can see how it's marked out before I cut it. And I'm going to be using a Milwaukee cordless angle grinder with a thin cutting disc to cut those triangle pieces out of the steel again without going all the way through the steel. While we're cutting, guys, if you could hit subscribe, like the video, comment below on anything you want to see, and share the video, that would be much appreciated. We've got a workshop log burner video on the way, tube notching video on the way, and a Harley Davidson 5-speed gearbox video on the way. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button, and we'll be in touch. So here you can see the cutout that's made, and we've done that all the way along the box section to enable us to bend it into one piece, as you can see here. So we've got that rectangular shape for the base of the trolley. We're using the welding magnets, which are absolutely fantastic, and Tig's the cat is acting as a little welding mask for you guys there so that we don't blind you. So we're just checking that it's completely square before we tack it all in place, and then just going to go round and weld all those four corners into place. So as you can see, the rectangle's all welded up, and we're just using a flappy grinding disc on the other angle grinder just to get those welds cleaned up. Just going to make two fillets to fit in the middle of the rectangle, because we will have a shelf on the bottom which we'll cut out of a piece of aluminium for you in a bit and lay that on the bottom. So we're just measuring up and cutting out those fillets to fit into that rectangle. Just going to use an old circular saw that I've got just to trim all the steel for this project. It does make light work of most pieces of steel that you put in there, but it probably needs a little bit of a restoration job on that circular saw. Maybe that's an up and coming video, I don't know. So just going to measure these up and make sure they're sitting the same distance apart in the rectangle, and then again using the welding magnets, which I am a huge fan of, but as I've said before, I'm pretty sure they collect every piece of metal swarf that you can possibly imagine. I'm pretty sure some of my neighbours' swarf is on those magnets as well. Don't tell him, he'd probably charge me for them. So you can see we've got the fillets welded in here, they're welded into place, and they've all been ground down. So the next thing to do is to mount the wheels on the side. For this we're going to need to make an axle. I could just use threaded bar, but that sounds a little bit too easy to me. So I've got some of this steel bar here. I don't know where I've got it from. I've had it for forever. It's nice to use a bit of it because it can now stand up in the corner of the workshop instead of laying across the back wall. So it's approximately 30mm thick. Sorry, 30mm round, I should say. And it does have some awful sort of mill scale on it from when it was produced. So when it does go in the lathe, often the first couple of cuts are pretty terrible. But just starting by measuring out the centre of the axle here, so that I can then centre it into the middle of the rectangle. Okay, tracking's not super important. It's only a Tig Welding trolley. But every now and then that annoying neighbour again, he wants to race welding trolleys up and down the road. You know, what can I say? It's only a welding trolley, but I also don't want to lose a race. So we're going to make sure that axle is in the middle of the trolley. Okay, so we've marked out the rectangle, we've marked out the axle, and we're going to mark it in place. And there's actually a mistake here, and it's not the camera angle, because that is in the centre, and although it does look off, that is in the centre. But as you can see, I hold it in place here, and then I mark the edge of the rectangular base on the end of the axle. So I'm going to move the axle over to my lathe now. It's a Boxford CUD lathe, 240 volt. I'm just picking out a high-speed steel tool for it here. Not 100% sure why. There's plenty of carbide in the toolbox, but just going through this box of stuff I've got here. Maybe also thinking about a form tool that's going to be needed for another project, so maybe looking for that at the same time. So picked out a piece of high-speed steel that my thumb is telling me that I'm reasonably happy with, so we'll go ahead and use that. Just popping it in an empty tool post here, just to make life a little bit easier for us. So I went ahead and popped it in the lathe. I don't have a centre steady for this lathe, so there is no precision here. I went ahead and took 5mm off of each end and also cleaned the centre up a little bit. Got it back on the bench and clamped it onto the axle, and realised that this is where I made a mistake. I marked the edge of the rectangular base right at the edge, which meant that when the wheels were on, obviously the tyres were going to hit the edge of the base. So luckily I did have a couple of big steel washers that did have a 25mm internal bore, so they just fit straight over, and I just sort of clamped them in place where I need them. I've marked it out already, and I just tack those in place with my MIG welder, just to stop those tyres from hitting the edge of the Tig Welding trolley. So that was a little mistake on my behalf there, and sometimes easier to see these mistakes when we look back on the videos. So we're back in the lathe now, and you can see I've got those washers tacked into place. What I need to do now is just using the Verniers there, just to ascertain where the wheel is going to sit on the shaft itself. So the wheel's going to sit up to where I've marked it, and anything beyond that point will be, I think it was an M10 by 1.5mm thread that I tacked on the end of it, as you are going to see now. So just going to go through the process, just double checking my measurements, and then going through the process of turning the end of that rod down up into the black line, as you can see there, just so that we get it to the right size to cut that M10 thread. Okay. As you can see here, guys, just had to take probably a good 20mm off this steel bar to get it down to the correct size to be able to tap the thread onto the end of it. But you know, it's not too much of a problem. Just I was up to my crown jewels in swarf by the time I'd finished, but it all went according to plan. And even though it's running way out of true, as you can even see in the video now, it all actually came out reasonably nicely. Some reasonable chips coming off the lathe there, and the finish was quite nice in the end actually, so good news in the end. So just cutting that thread onto the end of the axle. I've only videoed one side of this, but obviously everything that's been done on this side we repeated on the other side. I also turned down the weld where I welded those washers on for the back of the wheels as well, so I just turned the weld down a little bit just to tidy it up. But just turning that thread on, ready to be able to bolt the wheels onto the axle. So after the thread was completed, and again just done the same on the other end of the axle as well, I placed it up onto the bench with the wheels fitted. We got two casters for the front. Now we need to make sure it's level, and these casters, the base of those casters needs to be level with the centre of the axle, as you can see with the green arrow there. So I had to get some more box section, cut it to size. I've got some M6 riv nuts there, big fan of riv nuts. If nobody's used them before, maybe I'll stick a link below. I've drilled 2 holes in each piece of this box section, and I've riveted the riv nuts in there, and we're just going to bolt these caster wheels to the box section. As you can see here, got some M6 Allen key head bolts. Okay, again, just using stuff that's kicking around the workshop. So next step is I just clamped those, made sure the base was level, so clamped those to the base of the cart, and I just went ahead and welded those additional pieces of box section to the bottom of the base, and it all came out nice and level, so that's a result. Just marking out a piece of aluminium now for the base of the trolley, so we just mark this out in a spirit level, and then we're going to go ahead and cut it again with the angle grinder once we've put a new disc on the angle grinder, because as good as they are, they don't last very long, those thin cutting discs. So that's the plate all cut out, ready for the bottom. That can be fitted now. We're going to move on to making a little platform that will come off the rear of the rectangular base between the rear axle at the back, that will just hold the pure argon bottle on the back. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut some more steel, more box section of the same size. So just need 3 pieces here to make that small platform come off the back. So I'm just measuring them all up the same size and measuring the argon bottle as well. So always have the same size argon bottle, so no need for too much overkill on the size of the base for the bottle. So we've cut those 3 pieces of box section steel. We're going to hold them together with the magnets to keep them nice and square, and then we're just going to spot these in place with the help of Tig's the cat again. We'll just MIG those up and make that little platform for the back of the chassis. So we can see here that the platform's all welded up, and you can see where it's going to fit now onto the back of the rectangular base. So just going to stick that on there, but as you can see I'm fumbling around, can't clamp it in place, probably because of the way the axle's tacked onto the bottom of that base as well. So I'll go ahead and decide to whip the wheels off and put the whole lot in the bench vise and weld it up that way. So now you can see that all the welding is done on the base. The platform's on the back for the little argon bottle, and I'm just going to cut another piece from this sheet of aluminium to make a little base for that rear platform, so the gas bottle's got something, the argon bottle's got something to sit on, sorry. So I've cut all that out, as you can see, cut the little plate out and pop that on there. I'm just going to put some centre punch marks in it, and then I'll just go round and drill the holes out in the aluminium plate, but also in the box section, so we can put some more riv nuts in. So the holes are drilled in the plate and in the box section, and just popping some riv nuts in there, which I'll go and tighten up into that box section. I haven't filmed that part. So that's the base more or less done now. So the next step is to measure up the uprights, which is the same size box section again. So there's going to be a top shelf where the TIG welder will actually sit, obviously, and then there'll be a centre shelf as well for a little bit of extra storage, maybe putting the welding helmets on there or something like that. So just measuring out these uprights now and just measuring where they need to be cut. I did initially plan to put a slight angle on the top of it so that the sort of face of the TIG welder was always sort of looking up at me, if you like, but I decided against that. So just putting the first upright into place there. So again, just got the magnets on there. I'm just going to get that into place. Make sure it's level with the base itself, and then go ahead and tack that into place with the MIG welder. So the MIG that I'm using is a Sealy Super MIG 185 from memory. Second one of these I've had. Got rid of the first one because I thought it was too big for what I needed and went to a smaller welder. Turned out the bigger welder is definitely what I needed at the time. So I've always just held on to the 185. So gone ahead and tacked those into place again with the help of Tiggs the cat. So we've ended up with that's the third upright going in now. So the fourth and final upright just going in there. So we've just welded that into place and just going to pop the magnets off. Then we can pop the wheels back on the trolley. The casters are still on the front. Probably not wise to weld over a pneumatic tyre like that, but we're all right. We got away with it. So just popping the wheels back on, and then we can pop the trolley onto the floor. It's getting a bit too big to work on the bench now, so we'll pop it on the floor. We'll have to work on the floor. So just got some right angled steel that I'm going to use for the top base, because then it has a little bit of a lip and it will, you know, obviously stop the TIG welder from moving around when again we're racing it up and down the road or whatever it is we're going to do with it. So got the uprights in, just putting a fillet in here. This is not for the centre shelf. This is for the bracket that will hold the argon bottles to the back of the trolley. So just tacking that into place. You can see I've got the two aluminium plates on the bottom of the cart there, and I've got 4 pieces of right angled steel cut for the top, which I'm just tacking into place now, as you can see. So a little bit of creative straightening there, I would say we'll call that. So now you can see the uprights are in, the top is on, and I've cut some sort of mesh plate for the top, which is intentional because that will stop the too much sort of dust and grinding dust settling on that top part of the shelf. So I've cut some of that for the top, and that's in there now. So the top section, the little tub, if you like, doesn't quite reach the end of the front 2 uprights, which is obviously intentional because we need to get a handle in there so that we can pull it along or push it along. So just grinding the edges here, cleaning some of the metal up. Again, this right angled stuff has got loads of mill scale all over it, so it does need a little bit of grinding up and cleaning up before you can get any weld on it. So as you can see, we're just fabricating the handle here and getting that welded onto the trolley and cleaning up some of the grinds as we go along. More help from Tiggs the cat to try and stop the glare on the screen. Missed a little bit there, but we'll let him off of that one. So just popping the front of the handle on now. Again with the welding magnets, just going to get that tacked into place and then clean those welds up afterwards. So once that was all done off of the camera, I did go ahead and add the centre shelf, as you can see there. I also added 3 hooks to hang some of the leads off of, and I added a small tube which I welded the bottom up of to the back just to hold some of my TIG welding rods. So I gave it 2 coats of primer first, which it's had and it's dry, and now it's having 4 coats of hot rod red, which I hear adds at least 10 amps to your welder, so it was a no-brainer to go for that colour really. Kind of wish I'd painted it with an aerosol now instead of brushing it on, but we live and learn, eh? So it's all done. Now just on the final assembly, you can see I've already got the wheels on, greased up the wheel hubs, new lock nuts on the wheels. Just popping the aluminium plates down, got some new sort of dome Allen key bolts for the aluminium plate on the bottom, and then we've got 2 bits of the sort of grid plate, if you like, can't think of the word I'm looking for, on there, and they just slot into place because they got some sides on them. So I did make this bracket up here, which unfortunately I forgot to film, but I just bent some steel around the argon bottle and then put 2 90-degree bends on each side and drilled some holes in it, and then there's some riv nuts in the back of the trolley, and then that just holds the argon bottle on there nice and securely. So there is actually a rubber strap that can go inside that if I did go for a slightly smaller argon bottle. So just popping the TIG welder on for the first time and giving it a little bit of a wipe down and a clean. I'm going to be honest, it doesn't actually get used that much, but I would like to change that, which is the reason that I'm making the trolley. So I did use it a couple of weeks ago, and it's it's still working fine. So that's good news. So just sorting some of these leads out and giving them a little bit of a wipe down before we fit them to the trolley. But it's actually come out quite well. I'm quite happy with how it's come out, to be honest with you. So just making a new piece of pipe up there for the argon botter to the TIG welder, so that we haven't got loads of pipe dangling around. It's going to cut a new piece and make it a little bit shorter, so it's ready for the TIG welder. If you made it this far, guys, thank you very much for watching. Just going ahead and putting some final touches to the trolley, putting the filler rod into the trolley and stuff like that. I've got my welding helmet on the centre shelf there, so it's all worked out really nicely. So ready to use the TIG welder in the future. Got some more projects coming up. Just fitted a little log burner to the workshop, as you saw at the intro at the beginning of this video. So going to upload that video of the little log burner being fitted to the workshop. I've got a gearbox rebuild to do on a 5-speed Harley Davidson, so we're going to upload that video as well. And we've just got a new tube notcher, so I'm going to upload a video on the little tube notcher as well. So really appreciate you watching, guys. Don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, leave comments, share the video. It's much appreciated. We'll see you soon.